My name is Maya Richardson. I'm 32 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family had a label for everyone. My older sister Vanessa was the beauty. My younger sister Lily was the talented one. And me, I was the ugly one. They said it to my face. They said it behind my back. They said it so often, I started to believe it was my actual name. Last Saturday, at our family reunion in front of 47 relatives, my aunt made a joke about how I was still the ugly duckling who never turned into a swan. Everyone laughed. Then a woman I'd never met stood up, walked across the lawn, and said 5 words that made the entire yard go silent. What happened in the next 3 minutes changed everything. But this story didn't start at that reunion. It started 24 years earlier, in a pink bedroom where 2 sisters got compliments and one got nothing. Before I take you back there, if you've ever been the one with the label no one bothered to question, do me a favor.
Hit like.
Subscribe to Midnight Drama Stories. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from right now. I read every single one. Now let's go back. I was 8 years old the first time I understood what the label meant. It was picture day at school. Mom spent an hour curling Vanessa's hair. She painted Lily's nails pale pink and picked out matching headbands. When it was my turn, she handed me a brush and said, "Just make sure your hair isn't in your face." That night, the 3 school photos sat on the mantel. Vanessa's in the gold frame. Lily's in the silver one. Mine was in the back, behind a candle. No frame at all. I asked Mom why. She didn't even look up from her magazine. "We ran out of frames, honey." We hadn't. There were 2 empty ones in the hallway closet. I checked. Then there was my 10th birthday party. Vanessa's friends came. Lily's friends came. I invited 6 girls from my class. 5 said no. 1 came and left early. Mom made a beautiful cake, 3 layers with strawberries. She took photos of Vanessa holding it. She took photos of Lily pretending to blow out my candles. When I reached for the cake, she said, "Wait, honey. Let your sisters get the good shots first." I waited. By the time I got a piece, the strawberries were gone. That's how it always was. I was the placeholder, the background, the before picture. Birthdays were performances where I played audience. Photos were arranged, so I stood in the back or off to the side. Christmas mornings, Vanessa and Lily opened matching pajamas, matching robes, carefully wrapped gifts with their names written in calligraphy. My gifts came in old gift bags with tags that said, "To Maya" in ballpoint pen. One year, I got a book Vanessa had already read. Her name was still written inside the cover. When I pointed it out, Mom said, "Be grateful, Maya. Not everyone gets presents." A label isn't just a word. It's permission. It tells people how to treat you and how little space you're allowed to take. By the time I was 14, I had learned to make myself smaller. Physically, emotionally. I stopped asking questions. I stopped expecting anything. I sat at the far end of the dinner table and ate quietly while Vanessa talked about boys and Lily performed scenes from the school play. If I spoke, I was interrupting. If I stayed quiet, I was moody. There was no right answer. So, I just disappeared. But here's what they didn't know. I was watching, learning. I saw how Vanessa manipulated Dad with tears. I saw how Lily got out of chores by playing piano for guests. I saw how love in that house was transactional, performative, and conditional. And I decided I didn't want any of it. I left home at 18. No one tried to stop me. I moved into a dorm 3 hours away with $200 in my pocket and a backpack full of clothes that didn't fit right. I worked 2 jobs. I studied alone in the library until it closed. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. I didn't go home for Christmas. When Mom called and asked why, I said I had to work. She said, "Okay, honey, stay safe." She didn't ask again. I graduated with a degree in graphic design. No one from my family came to the ceremony. Vanessa was getting married that same weekend. Lily was her maid of honor. I wasn't invited to the wedding. I found out from Facebook. By 25, I was freelancing full-time. By 28, I had my own design studio. By 30, I had clients in 4 countries and a team of 6. I bought a small house with a garden. I adopted a dog named Pepper. I traveled to Portugal, to Japan, to Iceland. I lived quietly, successfully, independently. My family didn't know, because I never told them, and they never asked. I hadn't been back home in 9 years. But this year, my grandmother turned 90. She called me herself. Her voice was soft, shaky. Maya, I know it's been a long time, but I'd love to see you. Just once more. I couldn't say no to her. So, I went. The reunion was held at my parents' house. The same house I grew up in. The same yard where I used to sit on the porch steps, alone, watching everyone else laugh. I pulled up at 2:47 p.m. in my Lee sedan. Not flashy, just reliable. I wore a simple black dress and flat sandals. No makeup, no jewelry. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to see my grandmother and leave. The yard was full. Tables covered in red checkered cloths. A banner that said, "Happy 90th, Grandma June." Kids running. Adults drinking. Music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. And me? I was invisible. I walked through the side gate. No one noticed. I found Grandma June sitting in a lawn chair under the oak tree, hands folded in her lap, eyes closed. I knelt beside her. Grandma. She opened her eyes, smiled. Maya. Oh, my sweet girl. You came. She held my hands. We talked for 10 minutes. About her garden. About Pepper. About Portugal. She asked real questions. She listened to real answers. It was the first real conversation I'd had with anyone in my family in a decade. Then my Aunt Carol walked over. Tall, loud, always had something to say. She looked at me like she was trying to remember who I was. Oh, Maya. Wow. I didn't recognize you. She turned to the table behind her. Everyone look. Maya's here. You remember Maya, right? The quiet one. A few people glanced over, smiled politely, went back to their conversations. Carol leaned in closer and said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Still the ugly duckling who never turned into a swan. Huh?" She laughed. A few others chuckled. Vanessa, standing by the dessert table in a white sundress, smirked into her wine glass. Lily didn't even look up from her phone. I felt the heat rise to my face. That old familiar feeling. Shame I thought I'd buried. But I didn't cry. I didn't run. I just stood there, frozen. Then I heard heels on gravel. Someone walking fast. A woman's voice, clear and sharp. "Excuse me." Everyone turned. A woman in her late 40s, black blazer, gray slacks, leather portfolio under one arm, was walking straight toward Carol. I'd never seen her before in my life. She stopped 3 feet away, looked Carol dead in the eyes. "I'm sorry, did you just call her ugly?" Carol blinked, laughed nervously. "It's just a family joke. We've always—" "It's not a joke," the woman said. "It's abuse." The yard went quiet. She turned to face the whole group. "My name is Dr. Ellison Gray. I'm a psychologist specializing in family systems and emotional trauma. I'm also Maya's former professor." She looked at me. I barely remembered her. A guest lecturer. Years ago. I've followed her career for the last 6 years. She's one of the most talented designers I've ever encountered. Her work has been featured in international publications. She's built a business from nothing. She's kind. She's brilliant. And she's here, at a family event, being called ugly by people who should have protected her. Silence. The kind where even the wind stops. Dr. Gray reached into her portfolio, pulled out a printed magazine page, held it up. My face. My work. A feature in Design Quarterly. "This," she said, "is who she is. And none of you knew, because none of you asked." She handed the page to my mother, who stood frozen near the grill. Mom's face went pale. She stared at the page like it was written in a language she didn't understand. Dr. Gray turned to Carol. "You spent 30 years making a child believe she was worthless. And now you're confused why she doesn't come home." Carol opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. It wasn't that serious. "It was to her," Dr. Gray said. Then she looked at me. "Maya, I came because I saw the event posted online. I wasn't sure you'd be here, but I wanted to make sure that if you were, you weren't alone. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight. My hands were shaking. But I nodded. That was all I could manage. My mother stepped forward, voice trembling. Maya, I didn't know you felt. Yes, you did, I said. Quiet.
Calm.
You knew every time you put my picture in the back. Every time you gave me Vanessa's old things. Every time you laughed when someone called me ugly. You knew. She started crying. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, I said. Because then you'd have to admit what you did. I looked at Vanessa, at Lily, at Carol, at the whole yard full of people who had watched me shrink for 24 years and said nothing. I didn't come here for an apology. I came here for Grandma. And now I'm leaving. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I kissed my grandmother on the forehead, whispered, I love you, and walked toward my car. Dr. Gray walked beside me. At the gate, she handed me her card. If you ever want to talk, call me. You deserved better than this, Maya. I hope you know that now. I nodded, got in my car, and drove away. Weeks later, my mother called, left a voicemail. Maya, we need to talk.
People have been asking about you.
About your work. I didn't know you were doing so well. I'm proud of you. I deleted it. Months later, Vanessa sent a text. Can we get coffee? I want to understand. I didn't reply. Lily sent a Facebook message. I didn't know they hurt you that much. I was young. I'm sorry. I archived it. I didn't need their apologies. I needed my peace. Last week, Dr. Gray invited me to speak at a conference on resilience.
I said yes.
I told my story. Not for revenge. Not for validation. Just to let other ugly ducklings know that the people who label you don't define you. That you can build a life so full, so beautiful, that their words become background noise. If this story hit you somewhere deep, subscribe to Midnight Drama Stories. The next one is about a woman whose sister called her a faker at her wedding. 9 minutes later, the sister's honeymoon vanished. Tell me in the comments, what label did your family give you that you had to unlearn? I read every single one. And remember, you can't force people to see your worth. But you can build a life that doesn't need their approval.